is real estate wholesaling? Welcome to the OCG Masters of Real Estate YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to go over what wholesaling actually is. We're going to go over how the actual wholesaling process works from start to finish, what education you need to become a good wholesaler, and also what are the pros and cons of utilizing wholesaling to create financial freedom in your life and as a real estate strategy. So my name is Mathew Owens. I'm a California licensed CPA. I've flipped over 1,000 houses. We have over 35 million lent out to flippers in different markets around the country. We do a lot of value add multifamily properties and invest in all types of different syndications investments annually and invest passively and actively in real estate strategy. And if you like this content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll be coming out with tips and tricks to help you on your real estate journey and help you to be able to create financial freedom in your life through real estate. So let's get into it. What is actually wholesaling in the first place? Okay, so it's the practice of getting a property under contract at a discounted price and then assigning it to another party for a profit without actually having to close on that deal yourself. Okay, so you got to get it under contract, assign that property to someone else, and then you have the ability to close escrow or have that new buyer close escrow on the property and take a profit in between. So you typically have to get it under contract in order to have an assignable right that you can now assign that contract to someone else and have them close on it, and you make the profit in between without ever having to close escrow on that deal yourself or bring the capital to the table yourself, and you can actually get a wholesale fee for doing that. Okay, so it can be all across the board. I see some wholesalers making as little as a couple $1,000s all the way up to $50,000. I've even seen $100,000 wholesale fee in the past that can be pretty significant, but you can do this strategy to make larger chunks of cash like this and really build the capital you need to be able to consistently do additional strategies and invest in long-term passive cash flow opportunities. And a lot of investors use a reverse wholesale strategy to make it a little bit easier, in which they actually go out and find what their end buyers are looking for, what type of property, what kind of discount they're looking for, and then they go find it and they go market for those types of properties so that way they don't have the risk of not being able to assign that deal to somebody else or another buyer that may not have an interest in that deal. So you want to be able to make sure you mitigate the risk as much as you can, so that reverse strategy is actually a great way to get started and finding other people that are constantly buying assets and what they would buy, and you go through and find that for them. Okay, so the wholesale strategy is get it under contract at a discounted price, assign it to somebody else, and then they close escrow on that deal and you take an assignment fee, which is paid at closing. Okay, so let's talk about the actual process that you have to go through from start to finish in order to find a wholesale deal and successfully be able to obtain that assignment fee so that way you can be successful at wholesaling. Okay, so first thing you need to do is you need to find ways of marketing for your deals. Okay, so that's pay-by-click marketing, that's direct mail marketing, that is developing personal relationships with connectors and people that see distress. Maybe it's CPAs and attorneys and lenders and foreclosures and all types of ways that you are going to find properties. There are lists out there where you can pull big lists and be able to market specifically to them, or distress lists. Maybe they're delinquent on their mortgage and delinquent on their property taxes, and you're going to pull a list that cross-references both levels of distress and mail to those people, or target them, or do skip tracing for them and find ways of getting that property under contract and meeting those people in the first place. So you have to be able to market, and then you have to be able to track your leads and understand the sales process in order to actually get these under contract. So the number one thing first is marketing for discounted properties. Okay, then once you find leads for people that may be interested in selling that property, you have to be able to find a way to get them under contract in the first place. Okay, so that means you need to understand property analysis and know how to analyze the profit of the deal so you know what price you need to buy that at in order to be able to assign it to somebody else and make sure that person is making a profit involved. Okay, so you have to be able to do that. You have to go out and get inspections on these properties and be able to walk through a property and understand the proper renovation of that deal in itself, right? You got to do those. You have to do the property negotiating with the sellers and building rapport with those sellers. And keep in mind, you're not going to get that property under contract unless you can add enough value to that seller to trade for the price that you're looking for. So if a seller's in a bad situation, you can close in 2 weeks in all cash, then that is a value attribute to change their position immediately in 2 weeks from this financial position to this financial position over here. So that's one value attribute out of many that you can utilize to build that rapport and help the sellers out to be able to trade for that pricing involved as well. Okay, so you have to be able to negotiate that and build that rapport. Then you're going to go out and you're going to actually have your purchase contracts ready with an assignment clause in place already inside the contract, and you're going to educate that buyer or that seller, I'm sorry, on the process step by step so that that way they know exactly how it works each step of the way, okay? Then you're going to actually go out and market for buyers. Now, you should be marketing for buyers up front and having a database of potential buyers that you can wholesale to even before you start marketing for properties that you can acquire, okay? So you should have a list of buyers that you can send these assignment deals out to that you know will close in cash, that have an interest in buying those assets from you, okay? So you have to have that buyers list, you have to have an affiliate list in place, you have to have profit analysis broken down for them so they can see what their profit is, whether they're flipping it or they're holding it from a cash flow standpoint. Break down that profitability analysis for them so they understand. You have to break down the renovation bids. You have to have comparable sales. So you have an estimate of what the market value is and your backup for that. This is one thing wholesalers do wrong. They're always wrong on their renovation numbers and their market values. So you have to dial that in. Otherwise, you get branded from the real buyers as someone that brings them bad deals that they won't ever even look at in the first place. So even if you do have a good deal, you don't want to be branded as someone that's not up to par on their renovation bids and their market values. Okay, so you have to be able to do that and provide all that information to your entire buyers list and break that information down for them. Okay, then you're going to go out and you're going to start the close of escrow process. Okay, so you're going to assign that contract to the end buyer, and then that end buyer is going to put up the earnest money deposit and replace your earnest money deposit that's already on the property. Okay, they're usually going to have some inspection rights, do a walkthrough. Sometimes wholesalers require that inspection to be done up front and have no inspection contingency there. And usually if that end buyer doesn't close, there may be some penalties in place for them not closing in time or something along those lines. Now, you also have to have your title reports run by the title company to make sure there's no title issues with the property, because that could blow up your deal, right? So, and have the escrow companies doing that for you. And then you also really want to inform both the sellers that you're buying the property from and the buyers that you're selling the property to that you are making an assignment fee and making a profit. The last thing you want to have happen is have either your seller or your buyer get super pissed off because you're making a profit in between, where the seller might think, oh, I could have gotten a higher price, and the buyer might think I could have got a lower price in place. And so you have to have that information up front and be very clear that you are making an assignment fee out of this transaction so that everybody is aware of it, so that doesn't blow up your deal from somebody getting mad at you after the fact. Okay, full disclosure on all your wholesale transactions. Okay, so very important understanding that process from start to finish to get that deal closed. And normally once it closes escrow, that's when you're getting paid for that wholesale fee on that transaction, and able to take home that extra check and put it in your bank account or invest it in another deal, or maybe now you have the money to flip a full deal. Okay, let's talk about some of the specific education you need to have in order to be successful at doing this. So you got to have this info up front. Otherwise, you're going to be dead in the water before you start. Okay, you have to know how to market. So dive deep into understanding the different marketing strategies that you can utilize. Okay, now you also have to understand lead tracking and lead intake, and what system you're going to use to do that. What call system are you going to use? Are you going to use software like a call rail or something like that to track all your calls, to track your reporting, to understand what happened on those sales calls? Did you build enough rapport? Understand that process up front and understand your key performance indicators. Okay, so what things are you going to track? There's no point in marketing unless you're going to track everything in detail. Okay, so what is your cost per lead that comes in on your marketing side? What is your cost per closed deal on the marketing side? What if it's costing you $10,000 to get a deal under contract and go do an assignment when you make $10,000 on that deal and you're break even, or you make only $8,000 on that deal and you lose money? So understanding your cost per closed deal is extremely important, and there's no point into marketing at all unless you have those metrics outlined in detail so you know what your true profits are. Okay, so you also need to understand sales and how to build rapport and be personable with people to be able to help them understand where you're coming from, and help them understand a synergies involved and how you can help them, and what you need to get that property for, and build that rapport. Even if you can't go through and get that deal under contract, still build the rapport anyways. It could lead to additional referrals, additional benefits that you don't even realize, but you have to learn the sales strategies and how to build rapport with the sellers so that you can get these under contract. You're not going to go in there acting like, I'll call it a CPA like myself, or an engineer mindset, and have that choppy type personality without being able to and get that deal under contract. Okay, so you have to have the right salespeople in place. If you're not that person, have the right person in place that knows how to build that rapport, that can get these things under contract and sell deals. Okay, the next thing you really have to understand is property analysis and profit analysis. Okay, so you have to know, what are all the costs of your deals from start to finish? You have your purchase price, your renovation, your closing costs, your interest costs, your utility costs, your insurance and property taxes, all of these costs that add up. And if you don't know those costs, how do you expect to know what the profit is going to be for your buyer that buys that deal from you, so you can get your assignment fee, and know what they'll buy it for? You need to know what they'll buy it for, and then get it at a further discount so that you can have room for your assignment fee. You have to leave enough meat on the bone for that end buyer to make their profit, either on their fix and flip or their buy and hold, so they can get some built-in equity too. So you need to make sure that you know what their profitability is. That means that you really need to know how to analyze renovations and how to break down the math on what renovations are going to cost. And you need to know how to analyze market value, and you need to understand how to break down all the costs involved in a project. Okay, so Next thing you need to know is you need to understand the contracts and understand the assignments that go into those contracts and the legality behind it and the laws in the different states that you business. Sometimes certain states are not friendly to wholesalers. They try to have you make you have a real estate license in some states. There's issues with wholesaling in certain states. So you want to make sure that you understand the laws in that state and you understand your purchase contracts and what your rights are and your sales contracts and what your rights are, and understand that closing process from start to finish so that that way you can educate both the buyer and the seller of your wholesale transaction to make a smoother transaction occur. Okay, you got to walk people through that process. Okay, and then you have to know how to sell properties. You have to have a database of buyers already built and knowing what makes that good deal for that buyer. So these are the key things that you need to understand as far as your own education before you get started wholesaling deals. Okay, but what are some of the pros and the cons of investing in wholesale transactions? A lot of investors start out wholesaling because they think that's the only way they can get started because they don't have the cash to close on that transaction themselves. However, they're vastly mistaken. They can actually close on the transaction, go do the fix and flip, all with none of their own money if they have the right resources to do it, if they have the right capital infusion partners that they've been able to educate to bring that capital to the table. So there's a lot of strategies they can use where they think they need actual cash when they may not. Now, there is some cash requirements, right? You have an earnest money deposit, you have maybe inspection costs, you might have to pay your contractor or something to get out there and get you bids. If it's consistent like that, you have some travel costs involved there, right? Some marketing costs, some sales and marketing team costs as well, if you're having to pay them to do these leads and have you step out of that process, so you're not having to be the one on the ground selling, going to the properties consistently. So you have to pay people for those types of things. So sometimes there is some minor capital infusion even on a wholesale transaction. There's some cost there. So you should have some little bit of reserve there for those types of transactions. Okay. And you also want to get set up front with your private lenders so that you could take a transaction down if you had to and have your capital partners ready just in case you had to take that transaction down yourself. Because if you can't go sell it, you still want to be able to make sure you close escrow on that deal and can still make profit out of that deal and not waste all your time there. Okay. So, and realize as far as a con, the wholesale process is a massive grind. If you look at the value of how much time you're spending there, you're not making a very, very high hourly rate on your money in a wholesale transaction comparative to other income strategies in real estate. And unless you get to scale, right? If you're able to scale this up, put the right people in place that can do some of these strategies for you, maybe on commission or an hourly rate, then you can technically scale up and it starts to make sense for the time you're actually spending doing this. Once you hit that scale, that's when that happens. But you got to be hitting 1, 2, 3, 4 wholesale transactions a week or more to make that make sense. Otherwise, if you have a $5,000 wholesale fee, you're just paying your bills. You're not actually, building any real wealth there. And so a lot of wholesalers end up in this grind where they're consistently finding a deal a month or two deals a month and making 5 to 10 grand a month, which can be great. Sometimes they make nothing though, because they don't have their marketing strategies dialed in. They don't have their processes dialed in. And it becomes very, very difficult to consistently do that long term unless you find out how to scale and how the processes and the marketing piece works here. Okay. So it's definitely a grind and you got to dial all those things in because the income can be very sporadic there as well. So it also can be quick income. So if you have that scale, you can have a consistency of 5, 10, 20 grand wholesale fees. If you're doing that across 5 houses or 10 houses a month, it can be a very good income strategy once you're able to get to that scaling approach. But in order to do that, you might be spending 15 to 20 grand a month on marketing costs, on pay by click, on direct mail, on your sales team, on the processes and the systems like the call centers and things like that to be able to do that, and the tracking associated with it. It can be a big, robust system that takes a lot of effort to put in place. And if you're not doing that work yourself, you have to have other people that are doing that. Okay. So, but it can be quick income. There can be larger assignment fees here and there, which really make up for the smaller assignment fees that don't make a lot of sense, but you still want to take them down anyways. And there's not a ton of back end renovation work that you have to deal with, which was one of the biggest headaches associated with a fix and flip type project. Okay. So you want to be able to make sure that you're able to get this quick income, scale up to do this type of business, maybe learn the system with one or two, track your key performance indicators as well. So most investors think that, they go into wholesaling because they don't have any money, but they don't realize you don't need your money for real estate. You don't need your money. You need someone else's money in order to do that, which means you have to learn how to raise private capital. Okay. And so if you find a good deal, the capital sources will be there if, and a big if you can actually go out, show them the profitability of the deal, show them how you've mitigated risk, show them who your team is, so that you're able to show why you are going to perform on operating that, call it fix and flip deal or something along those lines, right? So you want to be able to make sure you're able to teach your private capital investors why it's a good investment for them, how they're protected, how they're secured by the property, and how the profitability splits work, so that you're in a good position for performance-based incentives on the actual project. Okay. So, and if you look at the activities that you have to deal with when you're dealing with wholesaling, right? Property analysis, sales, marketing, capital raising, all of these things are done in the other real estate strategies as well, whether you're investing in promissory notes, syndications, multifamily deals. They might be on a bigger scale, but it takes the same level of skill sets and understanding from wholesaling all the way through multifamily investing, for example. Maybe there's a little bit different of a property analysis section and due diligence section than a typical wholesaler transaction. Maybe you're raising more equity and dealing with a little bit of different financing guidelines from some of the commercial lenders versus a hard money lender or a fix and flip lender, for example. And understanding some of those differences is key, and learning those key differences is very important to your success in those strategies. But if you look at the grinding approach of this and what you're actually doing on a daily basis, there's a lot of similarities behind the wholesale type strategy and all the different strategies as well. They kind of play into each other. Still got to find deals, still got to be able to analyze them, still got to be able to raise capital from investors to get these deals done or get them closed escrow through that process, or find another buyer on the back end if you're going to do that type of strategy. Okay. So all these things can add up. And so if you develop the skill sets associated with capital raising, understanding your renovations and the risks on the larger deals, you can take those deals down instead of having to grind constantly on the wholesale side. So very key, important things to understand when you're learning wholesaling and you're just starting out in wholesaling. Okay. So I hope you guys like this video about wholesaling. If you like it, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we will be coming out with tips and tricks about real estate investing for you to help you create financial freedom in your life. Thanks so much. Do you want to learn how to create financial freedom in your life through real estate and take your investing business to the next level? If so, you can follow us in one of the following ways. First, you can take one of our free webinars on how to analyze property, how to raise capital for real estate, and how to market and find deals. Three of the key pillars to becoming a successful real estate investor. Number two, you can join us on our mailing list where you'll get tips and tricks on real estate investing directly to your inbox. And number three, you can take our 6-month real estate course that teaches you every aspect of real estate investing you can think of, and more importantly, create financial freedom in your life through real estate investing strategies that I teach. If you want a master's in real estate in 6 months, this course is for you. We're going to go over how to raise money, promissory notes, syndications, fixing and flipping, buy and hold investing, tax and legal structures, self-directed retirement accounts, financial education, how to run a business, how to market and find your deals, and most importantly, how to create that financial freedom in your life so that you can stop trading your time for money and create passive real estate cash flow that you can live off of. If you're interested, go ahead and click on one of the links below, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the other side.